Our friends, the age-old question, what's the difference between the Hoover Starlight and its replacement, the Hoover Junior Deluxe? It's not a joke, it's not a what's the difference joke, it's like a serious video. I'm actually going to talk you through it, so yeah. Well, as you can see, we have a original Starlight here. I've already done a video on this one. It's an in-use video. I never actually did a sort of overview talk-through one of it. So I'll link that video down the bottom in the description. I'm trying to remind myself what year this one is. 1975. Okay, so this is a 75 machine. This JDL is 1980. I think the switch over between the two machines happened in 77, 78. It was either late 77 or early 78, if memory serves. Could be wrong. So the Starlight itself did not actually have a particularly long run, or indeed the JDL. I think they stopped making these in 1980. So the whole series only ran for 5 years, which is, yeah, I mean, that's a surprising run for such a frankly awful vacuum cleaner. They were never very good. I know people love them, and I have a certain affection for these cleaners. I have them in my collection, but if you're being frank and if you're being honest, they were not very good. They were littered with faults, littered with issues, not least like the lower cord hook. Both of these cleaners is missing on them. The bodies were not particularly strong. Their greatest weakness was the fan. That was just, it was such a terrible idea, that fan. I've got some fans that I'm going to show you later. Actually, you come in a bit closer, and we'll compare the Starlight's fan with a normal Hoover Junior fan, and you'll see just how different those fans are and what the main cause of the problem was. On the face of it, these two machines look very, very similar. You can tell this is an early 70s cleaner, well, sort of mid 70s, and this is very much more later 70s. It's the colour scheme. You know, this is sort of muted, but this is just like, whoa, Jesus, that orange is really, really quite 70s. The other version of the JDL was much more muted than this. It was almost this kind of colour. I think it was lighter than this. It was like a white colour with a green door. In my personal opinion, I think the other JDL was the more attractive cleaner. This is, I mean, it is very much of its time. You know, you can't argue that fact. But in reality, these cleaners are almost exactly the same. Essentially, JDL is a cost-reduced version of Starlight. And there's two key things that Starlight has that JDL does not have. Apart from that, they're pretty similar cleaners. And those two things are the headlight and the bag full indicator assembly / light. And I'm actually going to show you this now because I've got another Starlight down here. So I'm just going to swap things around, and then we'll get the other Starlight up and we'll have a look inside. Right, here's our other Starlight. This is also a U2002, same model as the blue one, but this is the red version. There were two versions. There's two versions of each. Again, very strange, and a couple of special edition machines too. This one is actually incredibly early. This is January of 1975. So if they were launched in 75, which I have a feeling they were, this is a very, very early one. Unfortunately, this one is so poor that it is not really worth saving. The body has gone off horribly. To be honest with you, I don't even know if it works. I never actually plugged it in. I needed some parts off this cleaner to save this JDL. So this was really the donor machine in order to let this one live. What I'm going to do, because I've got the blue one, I'm going to save this front cover, this red panel, which is fine. You know, there's nothing wrong with this bit. So that gives me the option then, if a red one comes up for sale, great, I can buy that and keep this scrap machine if I need any parts, lovely stuff. But if a blue one comes up, then I can buy that and I can just swap the back door over and I've got a red one. So that's my plan for them. Now, not only were they not made particularly well, these cleaners, they are an absolute nightmare to take apart. And I think this is one of the reasons why the trade hated them so much. I can remember back in the day, my friend Jeff, my mentor, whenever one of these came in, he'd grimace at it. And he's not a man to be fazed by anything, but when he was faced with working on one of these, his face would drop. Now, just to give you an idea, okay, of the number of screws you have to undo in order to take the motor out of a Hoover Pure Power or Vortex, and the number of screws you have to undo to take the motor out of a Starlight, okay? So, on a Pure Power or a Vortex, you've got 2 screws at the rear, 2. Then you take the hood off, you pull out the pivot rings, you take the body out, you take the back door off, 4 screws around the motor housing, that comes off, and then you can take the motor out. So that's 6 screws, okay? 6 screws to take a motor out of a Pure Power / Vortex. The number of screws you need to remove from a Starlight to get the motor out is, open the back door, 4 screws around the motor cover, take that assembly away, turn the machine over, disconnect a spring, 1, 2, 4, 6, 8 screws on the underside for the 2 chassis rails, wiggle the machine about to get those rails out, then lift the entire hood over the body, over the handle, over the flex, lay the machine down, 2 screws to hold the motor in, 3 screws on the side plate. Okay, so what's that? 4, 8, 9, 11, 12, 13, 14, 16, 17. 17 screws to take the motor out of a Starlight. That is ridiculous. And the procedure for it is a pain. Getting it back together as well is a nightmare. It is so difficult because you've got these 2 chassis rails here that you have to sort of wiggle around and get in. It's awful. It is awful. So this particular cleaner is sort of partially stripped down anyway. The chassis rails are gone. So I can actually just flip this back, take off the front cover, remove the motor cover, and then we're into the motor, like so. So this is what is in a Starlight, and actually it's probably easier if I remove the hood as well. So there we go. Let's get rid of the hood, pop that down there, and here we go. Here's the business end motor section. So I'm going to bring you in closer now so we can actually have a look at this and we can check out the fans. Here we are up close and personal with the insides of the Starlight. As I said previously, this motor is very, very similar in many ways to the original Hoover Junior motor. It differs in so much as that it has 2 ends. The Junior motor, you have the fan end with the pulley on. This one has a fan end and a pulley end. The bearings are very, very similar. This top bearing is actually the same bearing as used in the normal Junior. This lower bearing is a brass bearing with a pass-through for the shaft. You see here. Actually, this actually is free, this one, so that's a really good sign. Now, just to really finish off what the difference is between the Starlight and the JDL. Starlight has a dirt finder lamp, which is here. You can see the bulb. And it also has a bag full indicator lamp on the bag door. JDL does not have this. In fact, let's just swivel round. You can see what I'm talking about here, this section. But if we swivel round and we look at the Junior Deluxe here, you'll see if I open the bag door, there's no dirt finder lamp. But there is still a cutout. This moulding is the same. There's a cutout here, and obviously the bag door moulding is the same because it has a cutout here. But there is no lens for it, and there's no clear lens underneath. You see, that's where the lens is on Starlight. But it's not here. It's been removed on JDL. So the reason for that is because Hoover thought, well, this is flipping pointless. And it was pointless because it didn't work. And that's the key part to it. So the bag full indicator relies on the fact that the bulb works, okay? So if the bulb's blown, you ain't going to get any bag full warning. And how it works is, this is the fan chamber here with the fan inside that's whizzing round. And the fan is blowing the air up the chamber here onto the bag throat, which connects it at this point. And here, there's a bellows. So this bellows actually moves. If I move this, I get my hand out of the way so you can see it. This bellows moves. Do you see the bellows there? It's actually come off on this one, typically. So this has got a sprung piece of metal here. This is on a spring. Let's bend that out a little bit. There we go. So this bellows, the bellows is actually here. Look, I'll give you a better view of it. I'll try to anyway. Look, can you see it there? See that bellows? And that bellows is connected to the fan chamber. This is the fan chamber. And we have this piece of plastic moulding here, which is the bellows assembly. And the theory is that when the bag fills, the pressure builds in the bag. And as the pressure builds in the bag, you still get the same, you get a pressure build-up in the fan casing. So that pushes the bellows out. The bellows basically inflates, like so. And can you see what it's doing? As the bellows inflates, it moves this metal arm around the dirt finder bulb. So what happens is, it actually exposes light to the cutout on the bag door. You see that? So if I just bring the bag door up, so you can see it. See the cutout there? This cutout, which matches up with this lens. So basically, as long as the dirt finder lamp's working, it won't go in now. Oh, there we go. As long as the dirt finder lamp's working and that bellows inflates, it allows the light to shine through this red lens. So you get a red light here. Now, in theory, it's a good idea. It's actually quite clever, and it's quite it's a practical way to overcome a problem, isn't it? To say, you know, how do I know if my bag is full? Well, we put a mechanical solution in place, which is this whole flipping great arm here. But this was obviously did not work, and it did not work well. In fact, I don't think I've ever seen a Starlight actually inflate this bellows properly and then block the light and let the light shine through. It just doesn't work. There's too much sort of involved in this. It's quite an involved way of doing it. So that is essentially the only difference between Starlight and JDL. That's it. Apart from this, they are the same machines. So whilst we're here, I really want to talk to you about the fans, the weak point in all of the Starlights and the JDLs. Right, I have a selection of fans here that I'm going to show you in a sec, but I just want to show you the fan that's in this particular machine, because there were two types of fan for Starlight and JDL. This one has the metal fan fitted to it. You can see it there. Now, look at all the vanes on that fan. There's a lot of vanes there. Now, obviously, you know, there's a real boon to having more vanes on the machine, because it can move more air, you get higher airflow, you get better suction. Unfortunately, these fans were not made out of very good metal. In fact, they are, I think they're aluminium. They certainly feel like it. But you'll notice that the vanes are quite close to each other. There isn't a lot of space between these vanes. Now, I just want you to keep that in mind as we move on to look at these other fans. Here's our selection of other fans that I want to show you. So we've got turbo power, we have plastic Starlight and plastic Junior. Now we know that Junior came in plastic and metal as well, but I just want you to look at the number of vanes on this fan and notice the space between said vanes. And it's also worth bearing in mind that on the Junior, the original Junior, there was a lot more space around the fan in the chamber than there was on Starlight. Let me just bring Starlight in here so you can see it. This chamber is not very big. It's very, it's not very deep. It's not very wide. The fan in here does not have a lot of space around it, and there's not much space on the entry point either. But there was on the original Junior. So you very rarely find a Junior with a smashed fan. Very, very rare. In fact, I can count on one hand the number of times in the past 30 years I've seen one of these fans smashed. Most of the time, the Starlight's fan is smashed. So let's just have a look at this fan. So this is also from a Starlight. This is obviously a Cortex pattern part. You can see the fan a bit better than you can within the fan chamber here on this one. You can see how, in fact, I think this is actually a slightly modified one. Yes, it is. It is slightly modified. I'm just going to do a quick count of how many vanes are on this original fan here. We've got, maybe around like that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So 9 vanes on that one. How many vanes have we got on this one? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 on this replacement fan. 9 on the original, 7 on the replacement. So the reason they did that was because this fan on the original moulding, dyeing, casting, if you like, it had too many vanes. And that was one of the problems. Now, this replacement fan, as I say, has less vanes on it, which gives the fan more of a chance of not smashing itself to pieces if it picks up anything larger than a grain of rice. Unfortunately, this fan is made of incredibly hard plastic. It's really hard to, you can't tell it, you know, it's in a bag, it's kind of hard to tap, but this is incredibly hard. Now, notice I'm not using the word tough, because it's not tough. It is a weak, rigid plastic, and that is the other problem. So when you changed these fans back in the day, most of the time the machine would come back with the same problem. You know, it's making a huge amount of noise, it's not cleaning properly, it's vibrating, because the replacement fan had broken. They made it out of this awful plastic. So the solution to this, as we go into the new world of turbo power, was to make the fan out of a softer, more malleable plastic. You can't really move it. It's not something you can actually bend. It's a rigid fan. But the plastic has more give to it. Now, let's have a count how many vanes are on this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 vanes, again, on the turbo power fan. It's a physically smaller fan as well than the Starlight one. So you can see here, like, the genesis of Starlight's fan was the horrific too closely spaced 9-vane fan. They tried to solve that problem with a wider spaced plastic fan, but that gave its own inherent problems of the plastic being too rigid, and then they solved the problem with turbo power fan. So moving on, moving onwards from the original Junior fan, how many is there? 7 on this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep, 7 again, but very widely spaced, more widely spaced than turbo power is. But yeah, this is, so you see how flexible that plastic is. You can actually move the vanes on the Junior fan, so hence why they lasted better as well. And on the, obviously you couldn't do that on the metal fans, but because of the wider spacing and the shallower vanes, they survived. They just coped with, they coped with pebbles and stuff going into them. If you sucked up a pebble with a Starlight, that was it, smash. Your fan's gone. No doubt in my mind, the fan's gone. So there we go. That's just a little brief overview for you of the differences between the Starlight and the JDL, and also just a talk through about the fans too, because I personally find it quite interesting to talk about this kind of stuff. You don't really have this problem anymore, not in this modern world of machines breaking their fans. You do get it occasionally, but it's very rare. These days, what happens is all the dirt goes through into the motor, all the dirt collects on the vanes of the fan, because they're all clean fan machines. The fan starts to vibrate, it can take out the bearings, it can take out itself, it can, break apart inside. But yeah, this kind of thing is very rare now. I've probably had this Starlight fan for 20 years or so. It's my last one. This is the last one of these I have, and I will use it at some point, hopefully when a red machine comes in. If it needs a fan, I can put one on it. So yeah, happy days. There we go. Hope you found that interesting. Thanks for watching. As ever, hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to do the comment, like, subscribe stuff. I really appreciate it. It always helps me out. And I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.